Sideshow, Court of the Dead, Odium in the house. Let's unbox it. Let's review it. I'll take off my pants later, so stay tuned for that. This is the Extreme Channel. My name is Mr. X. Today we have Sideshow's Court of the Dead Odium statue. Odium? Odium. Odium. Look at this guy. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. One, I'm standing up wearing pants. Those are two different things. Two, I'm going to show you the unboxing because this art box is kick-ass, guys. I'm not an art box guy, but I love this. On the front, you have a picture of the statue. And I apologize for the lights. I'm trying something a little bit new today. On the side, you have a close-up of this badass. On the other side, you have the exact same thing. But on the back, you have him like his hand holding a human skull. I once said that I did something like that, and somebody reported me to the social network. But anyway, let's get started. You're probably going to see some angles of me that you have only had dreams or nightmares about. For such a large piece, he's actually not that heavy. And that is probably because he is part PVC. Which, there's all this controversy about, well, PVC is not as valuable as polystone. All rocks are the same, aren't they? I mean, it's not like people spend more for a certain type of rock on their finger, is it? So, a huge box, styrofoam tape. I'm going to try and do it fast for you guys. It's rare that somebody asks you to go fast. Unless you have kids and they're in the other room, then you got to go fast a lot. It's kind of a good excuse sometimes, don't you think? Woo-hoo! All right. Let me show you a picture of this, guys. It's awesome. Really not the best picture, but it's awesome in real life. So I've never actually seen this piece in person, but I just thought he looked amazing. Relatively small base for such a large character. They made 300 of these. And if you're unfamiliar with Sideshow's Court of the Dead line, it's a line they made up. They own the rights to it, and I think it's a pretty smart idea. There's a little bit of a storyline you can read about each character, where they're from the underworld or they're part of the underworld. And I have 4 or 5 pieces in my office. We'll actually talk more about that later. But, damn, this guy has spikes all over him. And he's actually ripped through the bag up here. So this bag is pretty much gone. You know, the problem with this too, Court of the Dead actually goes in my office, so I have to rebox this and take it back. But I figured you guys wanted a new statue review. And here's the exciting news. If you're actually watching this, I have a ton of them. Check this out right here. So this means you guys have brand new reviews coming to you for the next few days. But let's put this guy in, and as I said, it's difficult to figure out where to hold him, and he is not as light as you would think he is. That new guy doing the unboxing on Sideshow is freakishly strong. And usually when I review something, I've already looked him over, taken pictures. Him I haven't, so I'm kind of taking it in, and spoiler alert, they knocked it out of the park again with Court of the Dead. And most people know I'm not a big proponent of Sideshow, so if I'm complimenting them, it's probably right. And I don't even know what this stuff is. I thought he had, oh, that's it. He's put together. The rest of this, you have 3 more pieces, so 5 pieces total, is actually his mask that he can wear. So actually, you guys can watch me do that. It'll be amazing. Are you ready? Was it good for you? little bags to suffocate my statues if they come to life at night. We're done. So I'm going to take some pictures of this guy. I'm going to take my pants off, and we're going to do an extreme review. Stay tuned. I am back. What does that mean? Mr. X, I've seen you every day. Well, honestly, I've been gone for about a week traveling to places that had the Croco or Conja Club virus or whatever that is. By the way, I welcome that shit because I'm going to build antibodies for you guys. But we are here with Sideshow's Court of the Dead Odium Maquette, guys, and I am blown away. It's not the best piece ever, and there's some problems with it, but it is really exciting to have this piece because so much cool stuff is going on. So we're going to rate them using the extreme scale. I wore a special shirt for ATV today, and the extreme scale is a scale that I made up out of my weird mind that rates statues in all the different categories. Essentially, it's a 1 through 5 scale. If you don't know what that is, go check any of my previous reviews in the last 6 months-ish, and you will see that. But, so this is from Sideshow Collectibles. Sideshow Collectibles produced it, manufactured it, distributed it, and this is their Court of the Dead line. As I said during the unboxing, it's an entire line of made-up characters having to do with the underworld. And the first one I ever bought, I thought that it was part of a video game because I'd never heard of it before. I'm not huge into video games. But I currently have a number of their pieces that I haven't reviewed. I have them at my office. You guys will get an office tour here in the next few months, and you'll see him with them. And this is Odium. So Odium, he's kind of their muscle, if that's the best way to say it. He was created to kill people, and that's going to be evident in a lot of the statue that we look at. $975. They made 300 of these. Shipping was pretty cheap. I don't even look at shipping anymore with license because I know it's not $500 to $1,000 like it is with custom pieces. But as you saw in the unboxing, he arrived perfect. Nothing wrong with him. Design-wise, or not design, but everything fit perfectly, even though there was only 5 different pieces to put together. And I just couldn't be more happy to have him. So let's jump right into the review here because everything that's coming to my head right now, I don't plan what I'm going to say, all has to do with the review. So with the review, first thing we start with is concept. Now the thing about concept is because this is a made-up character, you can't say, well, did they get the concept right? Of course they got it right. They made it up. But there are some things on this concept that don't make sense. So let's do a once-over of him starting at the bottom. Here he is sitting on his vanquished enemies. And there's some paint opportunities we're going to talk about, but there's skulls and bones and mud and a whole bunch of stuff going on. One of the weird things is you see like a splash right here. Why is that splashing? He's not stepping in it. He's stepping on something on top of it. But as you move up him, this is a weird creature, guys. He has spikes coming all out of him, and his skin looks like it's a disgusting brain. It's really hard to describe. You'll see in the close-ups. But he has these spikes coming out, and he has armor, and this armor has spikes on it. And he only has armor in certain places. Some of it doesn't make sense. He has armor on his right thigh, but not his left thigh. He has some mixed media. He's got this weird patch in the middle of him that you guys see. And there's some leather straps that are almost coming out from his body. I don't understand that. And as you move up farther, he has 2 huge weapons, even though it doesn't look like he'd need them. And one of the things you're missing right now on the back is tons of spikes and stuff like that. And his skin is cracked open everywhere. I can't tell if his skin is very fragile or not. And he has one of the most badass, coolest portraits I've ever seen in my life for any statue. That's what puts him to the next level, I think. And there is one switch-out option display we're going to talk about. It has to do with this little mask down here. He's in this action dynamic pose as well, if you didn't notice that. If you're newer to collecting, statues are traditionally either in a... what is it? Oh, thank you. They're in a museum pose, which is essentially they're posing for a picture. Maybe a little bit of action, or they're in a very dynamic action pose. So dynamic would be this guy. He's obviously kind of running, lunging forward, ready to kill his enemies. And what's interesting is most of the Court of the Dead line is actually in museum poses. So kind of interesting they went in that direction with this. But I love the concept. Like I said, some of the things don't make sense, but I don't think that kills it that much because maybe there's some weird reason that the art director behind this thought it up and I just haven't realized it. But I think the concept is a W. This is a 4 out of 5. It's a rail. It's a piece that you really want, but not quite a grail. So next we're going to jump into design of this piece. Now we talk about, does it fit together well, displayability, things like that. And there's some things wrong here, just letting you know right off the top. But before we jump into that, let's look at the different display options. So it comes with this mask that you can display right here, and we're going to do some close-ups later. Or you can put the mask on his head. Here's what it looks like. Now this looks really stupid in my opinion. I would never do this, but it's cool they gave that option, and I don't think that necessarily will make it lose points in the review. But here is his badass unmasked portrait. And we're going to do some more close-ups, as always, with the paint and sculpt. Now, some of the negatives here. First of all, there's some really cheap-looking mixed media. Really cheap. Huge miss on that. It's supposed to look like leather. It looks like that fabric you'd get at Hobby Lobby that you used in kindergarten. Huge miss. His foot isn't sitting flush at all. It's kind of hard to tell with the pictures here, but that's a miss. He's made of PVC. Now, if you're new to statue collecting, most statues are a mix of polystone, resin, some other stuff. They're not made of PVC, and everyone freaks out because PVC is traditionally lighter. They think it's a weaker material. Well, PVC, depending on the quantity you're producing in, can actually be more expensive. And PVC, if it breaks, if you buy it from Sideshow, you can get a replacement or you can get your money back. So what's the big deal? As long as it looks cool, in my opinion. So he was considerably heavy, so I know he's part PVC, but there's definitely some resin and some polystone in him. The base was light, but he was of decent weight. Now, the biggest design flaw that they have, and then we'll talk about a few good things. It comes with one portrait that is removable. Why in God's green earth would you make a portrait that's going to have a seam line, because there's no collar or shirt or necklace to cover it up, when there are not alternate portraits? That is a stupid, stupid design decision. And here's the most ironic part. He shipped like that. So they didn't do it. They didn't cut it from an engineering standpoint so it'll ship more safely. I don't know why they did it. It could be something to do with how the hair, they had to mold it on a different production line. But I think that's a big miss. You put a big, nasty seam line that didn't need to be there. And that's pretty significant. Now, let's talk about a few good things with the design. Number one, this is a huge piece. It's a maquette. And he's tall and huge. It doesn't take up that much space. Speaking of, let's get those dimensions. So the widest point on the base is only about 12 inches. And his hands do stick out a little bit farther, but traditionally they're going to be higher up. So he can display really well, really close to other characters. He is a little bit deep. That's what she said. 18 inches. And his highest point is probably the top of his Wolverine claws, 26 inches, which traditionally anything over 24 does start some display issues with people. Where I was going to put him is 22 inches. That won't work, so I'll have to figure that out. Like I said, you guys won't see him anyway. But I do like his presence and his size. I think it flows well with the concept, so they definitely went that way. And he probably scales correctly, too. Again, he's a made-up creature. He's supposed to be 1/4 scale, but compared to the other Court of the Dead pieces in my mind, they're about this big, and they're little punier characters. But not all of them are 1/4, but the majority of them are. So, as usual, I think the design has a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. That decision with the portrait, though, I think is a big, big no-no. So, that hurts it a lot, and for that reason, I think I have to give the design a V, a very nice. Now we're going to dive into the paint and sculpt on this guy, and we'll start at the bottom, go all the way to the top. And notice during some of my videos, I say we'll start at the top and go to the bottom just because I intertwine the words. It's kind of like, it's like a Freudian slip maybe. The other day, I was having breakfast with my wife, and I meant to say, hey, honey, can you pass the orange juice? And instead, I said, you ruined my life, bitch. So sometimes stuff like that happens. But we'll start at the bottom, and kind of a spoiler, the bottom's bad. They missed big on this bottom. The concept is awesome, but the paint and sculpt they did not execute, and I'll show you why right here. Actually, man, that would have been good. I don't edit these much, but show you why right here would have jumped in. Let's look at this little piece first. This piece I like much better. Take a look at the skull. Very detailed. Very cool. I assume it's the same type of creature that Odium is because of the spikes that are coming out of the sides of his face and the size of the skull. And then as we slowly move up, you see a few other things on there, almost like some moss growing. It's on the back too. You can't see really well. And then moving up to the mask. And we're going to look closer at the mask when we get to that head sculpt again. But the mask is okay. It reminds me of a few of the other pieces they have. So I'm sure it's trying to fit that theme. Has a skull with the sun around it. And here's the base. So what I'm talking, it's a big mess. They didn't use enough colors. It's this brown globby mess meant to be mud. It's all mixed together. I don't like the sculpt on it. Things aren't differentiated enough. Some of the skeletons, maybe it was the print process. The skulls kind of look blobbed together. Huge miss on this base, which is so sad because it had so much different potential, or so much potential. I do like all the stuff they have around it, though. They have spines and other bones and tons of different skulls. Some are the same size, some are different. Really cool. But let's focus a little bit more on the colors here. It just doesn't differentiate at all. Some of it you can't tell if it's mud. You can't tell if it's skulls. You can't tell if it's human body pieces or what it is. I think they lost so much opportunity. And it doesn't even really look like mud. It almost looks like a mix between mud and stone. Big miss. I want to look at his armor really quick, specifically on his legs here, and then we'll get back to like his skin and stuff like that. I love the armor on his right foot here. His right leg has more armor than his left leg, but he has kind of these almost croc armor. You know, his toes are covered up, where the other one you'll see that they're not. And these spikes coming out of the armor. It has this old rustic look to it, and you're going to see more of that in his gauntlets on his arms. It is very cool. I like the design of it. I like the color choice they used. It's very close to the color choice they used on the base, and it just didn't work for the base, but they added those coppers, especially on the spikes. Has kind of the scale effect on it. But really neat, and like I said, I like how it differentiates. Check out his feet. So first of all, this guy needs a pedicure, but these nails look so gross and awesome, and that's what this statue is. It's gross and awesome. And even like, you know, he needs some lotion on the back of his heels here. Very disgusting. I love what they did with the pinks and the reds and the texture. And then as you move up, his skin gets much lighter and it's bubbly. I know that's probably the wrong term, but it describes it well. It's very bubbly, almost like it's cooking, a brain cooking or something like that. And these awesome spikes, they're very sharp, by the way, are poking out all over, and there's some skin irritation where they're poking out. Makes you really wonder about the character. And another thing on his skin, you see these huge gashes everywhere, which during the concept I talked about, you don't know how stable his skin is. It looks like it falls off, and we're going to see more of that on his torso. It's just a weird, cool thing. I like it, though. Here's the mixed media that looks like trash. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It looks like trash. Even the chain around him looks cheap. The netting. And, it covers up his junk. And I looked, by the way. Can't let my wife see that. Let's look at his back of his torso first. Look how muscly this is. And what's interesting is this is a much darker tone than the rest of the body. You see another one of those huge gashes, then almost like these giant nails in his spine. I love it. It's very cool. I like the texture. The flow of it's kind of all over the place. They really went all out. And same thing on his front torso. The one big difference here is you're going to see a lot more red irritation because he has this almost huge circular medallion type thing that's almost built into him. And the reason why I say it's built into him is it almost looks like there's straps inside of him that's pulling it in. These straps look like crap. They didn't do good with the sculpt on them if they were going for leather. A lot of opportunity on there, and the symbol thing looks okay. But the rest of the skin all around it kind of takes your attention away from that, and that looks really good. The colors, the sculpt, Very nasty. Check out his arms here. First, the underside of his arms. I love this. He has more stuff coming out of, more spikes and metal coming out from him. And I love the dark red colors. So the blood colors they're using is different colors all over. Almost gauges the intensity. Check out his, back of his biceps here. Just like his back, very muscly. Has some different cuts with some different colors in there. Here's his armor. So first kind of his Wolverine claw. This looks awesome. Very, very cool. You see a lot more of the copper I was talking about. I love that all the spikes are going in the same direction. That this just... I wish I had a weapon like this. Very, very awesome. In his other hand, another unique weapon. A lot more copper, old type. This looks like it's almost falling apart. So you can tell he's been around for a long time. He's used this for a long time. Kind of reminds me of the hired thug. Look at his fingers here. Disgusting. Very nasty. Not only the nails, but the fingers, the tones in them. Trying to go for a disgusting statue. They certainly pulled it off. Check out his hair. His hair's okay. Actually, it's pretty good, to be honest with you. Normally I would lie. That's what I say, to be honest with you. Why do we say that? But here's some shots of his hair. Flows well. I think he'd be okay with long or short hair. Let's look at the mask up close one more time. Again, not a fan of it, especially on his head. He doesn't look as scary. Looks kind of stupid in my opinion. And then let's look at his portrait. This is phenomenal. This is so good. I absolutely love every part of this. I love the expression on his face. The reds they used in here are much darker. They have this moist effect in all those different cuts around his eyes and his gums. His teeth look awesome. Different directions, pointed, this yellow coloring on them. The spikes coming out of his face. It's just hard to describe all the cool things about this. It is really, really well done. Very impressed. So what's interesting about a piece like this when you're rating it is the figure technically would have a completely different rating than his base. But we have to factor in both together. However, I always say that the figure is more important than the base. When the base becomes more important than the figure, it's not always a good thing. Sometimes it can be, but most of the time it's not. Starting with the paint app, I think the best parts are the red bloody parts and around his face and the more irritated parts and some of the armor. But the rest of the skin left a little bit to be desired. The base left a lot to be desired. So I think the paint app, honestly, at best, I think it's ugly. It's a 2 out of 5. And I know you're thinking, man, Mr. X, you weren't that hard on it when you were going through the details. But sometimes when you're looking at it as a whole, as opposed to one little section, you have different viewpoints. Plus, so you guys know, this scale is my opinion. So you guys arguing that, the people that argue with my grades on there, you're not going to win. My opinion may be different than yours. Sculpt. I don't think the base is as bad on the sculpt, but I wish they would have done more, and I love the sculpt of the body. And then the face just takes it to the next level. So the sculpt is definitely a W. They knocked it out of the park, a 4 out of 5, a rail on the sculpt. Really well done. Now, I'm going to be a little hesitant on what I say next before we give it the final grade and decide if it has the X factor. But I think it's the best Court of the Dead piece to date. I do. The character, the concept is awesome. The sculpt is awesome. It's so unique. You're not going to find anything like this. It's kind of their version of an evil Hulk, if you will, and they pulled it off magnificently. I didn't even think it was a version of the Hulk. I don't know why I'm going like this. I bet you my face looks funny. You know when you're on YouTube or you take pictures or you see yourself on camera, you see yourself doing things or making funny faces, eventually just get over it because you don't give a Let's give him the final grade, though. This is a tough one for me. I think the paint and design left a lot wanting, and he's $975. We're not supposed to factor price into the grades, but we're going to this time, and for that reason, he's only a very nice. He's a very nice statue. I think if he was a $600 piece, that would have promoted him to a rail. Granted, he is of large size and he doesn't take up much footprint, so there's so many pros and cons to this. But that's my final score. If you don't like it, then go cry to your mom. I'm in a mood. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry I said that. I'm sorry if that... No, I'm not even sorry if that offended you. Someone who just watched my channel for the first time, which I do appreciate, he said, "You were really arrogant." True story. But thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate it. Stay tuned. Tomorrow is going to be a very rare custom piece. I don't know which one because I have all those boxes to undo. And then the next day will be another one. Then the next day is a video about the 5K giveaway. It's not the results, but it's a video that you'll want to watch if you entered it. And then we'll do another one and go from there. But it's been a long, long week. It's Friday night right now. This is airing Sunday morning, I think. But thanks very much for watching. And remember, don't go...